Welcome to M2M Coverage. We are here to predict the Eastern Conference Finals, which have been set based on the Celtics just defeating the Raptors in Game 7. That was a pretty close game. We just watched it, and the finals are set. The Eastern Conference Finals are set. We got the Heat against the Celtics. Jimmy Butler and the crew of shooters going up against Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Kemba Walker, who did not necessarily show up in games 6 and 7, but it's a great matchup, an enticing matchup in that people have been saying Miami has had problems with the Celtics all year. So we're here to make picks. I'm going to go first because Kevin and Geoff probably have some disagreements, and we'll let them go last. But Gabe is here with us as well. Let me go first. So I have the Boston Celtics winning this series, and I have them winning it in 6 games. If the Boston Celtics end up in a Game 7 against Miami, like they did against Toronto, they're not going to win it because Miami is too well coached. Miami is a Rough Rider team, and they won't make the turnovers that we just saw Toronto make. So from that perspective, I feel like the only way Boston can win is if Kemba Walker shows up. Kemba Walker is the key. The man turned it into a 4v6 in the second quarter and the first quarter of this Game 7. He can't play defense, and he has been lackluster on offense. So I'm really looking for Kemba Walker in this series, and I'm hoping that maybe Grant Williams can play some defense like he did towards the end of Game 7. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum will be the story, whether they can perform down the stretch. So I got Celtics in 6. Gabe, you're up next. What is your prediction?
So I already made the mistake of sleeping on the Heat in the first round, and it really, really came back to bite me. I didn't even have them winning against the Pacers, let alone the Bucks. I even predicted that the Heat would beat the Bucks in 6, but it didn't even go to 6. It went to 5. So I think I've been basing my predictions on the Heat series too much on the whole regular season as opposed to just the bubble. With that being said, this is not the regular season. This is like a whole new season. Everyone's been playing slightly different except for maybe the Lakers. So I think that the Heat are going to win this series. I think they're going to win in 7 games. The Celtics put up a great fight, and they did play better than the Raptors that entire series. The only thing is that they still don't have that depth, and that's why I had the Raptors winning. They still don't have that depth. Miami has players 1 through 11 that can play in the playoffs. Now, when I was thinking about matchups defensively, when the Celtics have the ball, when they were playing the Raptors had some okay perimeter defenders, but they didn't really have that one guy that could lock down any Jason Tatum's or Jaylen Brown's. Even Kemba Walker's. I mean, they had Kyle Lowry, they had OG. They were good defenders, but they're not near the likes of Jay Crowder, Jimmy Butler, Andre Iguodala. I really think that the Heat have the perfect matchup to switch onto anybody. And I think that Bam Adebayo is going to be a force in this series. He might average a 20-10 series because I don't really see who's going to stop him either. I don't think Daniel Tice can do it. It's going to be close. The Celtics are definitely going to win a couple games, but I think the Heat are going to barely win, whether it's in 7 or 6. I think it's 7, so I got the Heat.
Yeah, and I was debating whether to go Heat in 7 or Celtics in 6, and you pretty much just gave me a great argument for why the Heat would win in 6. And I think the only way the Celtics can win is if they shoot the Heat out of the game early on, the way they did against the Raptors. But that's not going to happen against a Miami team that's so defensive like that. So I'm in Boston right now. You can see in my background. That's why I'm going Celtics. I just really like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. But Geoffrey, you're up next.
I'm a moron. Not only did I pick this Indiana Pacers to win in 7, I also picked the Milwaukee Bucks in 5. And the Miami Heat, The Miami Heat have proven me wrong. I did not expect this. They're a very underrated team. And, like a famous MMA fighter once said, I would like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody because I had the Boston Celtics not only winning the series, but sweeping the Miami Heat. And this is why.
What?
Sweeping the Miami Heat. I don't care what anyone says. They're sweeping the Miami Heat.
Say that with a straight face.
I'm not saying that with a straight face. The Boston Celtics are sweeping the Miami Heat.
So the Heat are winning. The Heat are winning. That's it. We already know now.
The Heat are not winning. The Celtics are sweeping the Miami Heat. I'm calling it right now. First of all, I made the mistake. I made the mistake of picking the Milwaukee Bucks, even though the Heat were, without a doubt, the better matchup. But in this series, the Heat are not the better matchup. The Celtics are a much better matchup against the Heat. And I feel like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, who have been playing amazing throughout the regular season and the playoffs, are going to step up big. And, even if Kemba Walker doesn't do great, he has been extremely limited when they played against Miami Heat in the regular season and the bubble. And the Boston Celtics still managed, still found a way to win. I mean, they lost one game in the bubble, but that was when Gordon Hayward was extremely limited. Not only that, the Miami Heat are a great three-point shooting team. But guess what? This Boston Celtics team is one of the best three-point defense teams. They have limited their opponents to about 38% from the three. And because of this, I think that the Boston Celtics can beat the Miami Heat in 4. And you know what? I'm going to say this. I've been seeing the comments, Hussein Rita, he's been messing around with me. He's extremely salty that my fantasy team is better than his. He's been calling to fire me. And if the Miami Heat do win the series, I'll be retiring as a basketball analyst from M2M Coverage. I'm done talking about basketball. But, I'm confident that the Celtics can beat the Miami Heat in this series.
Is it my turn?
Yeah, one sec. Geoffrey, are you okay? Have you had anything
I'm more than okay.
that might have impaired your judgment?
Stay off the weed.
I'm more than okay. The Celtics are beating the Heat. Mark my words.
Okay, your points were not wrong, but your conclusion was just completely invalid.
My conclusion is completely right.
Kevin,
All right.
please.
Let me tell you one thing, Geoffrey A. Jimmy Butler is not going to get swept. And also, you said that the Heat beat the Celtics early in the bubble. That's right. And you said Gordon Hayward was limited. Jimmy Butler did not play for the Heat. The Heat beat the Celtics without Jimmy Butler, arguably their best player. And you say that the Celtics don't match up with the Heat well. Well, you know what? I have a great rebuttal for that. You know why? The Celtics always caught the Heat on the second game of a back-to-back. You know how much of an impact that has on the team? You get an exhausted team. You get a mentally and physically exhausted team who has to travel. So yes, the Miami Heat may have lost a season series to the Boston Celtics, but they were unlucky in their matchups. And you say that they don't match up well and that Boston limits teams to 38% three-point shooting. First of all, 38% is not even horrible. Second of all, how is Boston going to defend a Miami team that has an improved Tyler Hero, who has suddenly emerged into a clutch player? Early in the season, when they had the Heat and played against Tyler Hero is not the same player in the bubble as he was pre-bubble. They're different. And also, I trust Eric Spoelstra to make rotational adjustments, unlike Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse put in a Pascal Siakam who forgot how to dribble a ball and kept him in the game for the entire fourth quarter without substituting him. Pascal Siakam keeps just passing the ball to Marcus Smart like he's on his team. Eric Spoelstra, I guarantee you, will not do that. The Miami Heat are smart. They will make adjustments. I trust Spoelstra. And the Miami Heat will beat the Boston Celtics in 7 games. That is my prediction. I've been high on the Heat. I'm going to ride the Heat, and the Heat are going to make the finals.
Kevin, you've already been wrong. You picked the Raptors to win in 7, and that's obviously a horrible prediction.
Okay. You want to talk about bad predictions. You said Hawks in 5. You said
I was wrong. I accept the fact that I was wrong. But first of all, Mike Budenholzer is not Brad Stevens. Brad Stevens is a much better head coach than Mike Budenholzer.
Mike Budenholzer is a 2-time
coach for more than 30 minutes. And then Marcus Smart, he has really stepped up. He's a great defender. I think he can limit some of the players in Miami Heat.
Marcus Smart is one person. You do realize that the Miami Heat sans Jimmy Butler, the entire team is a 3-point shooting monster. Like they're absolutely brilliant. And also, you know what? When Geoffrey Aji says he's confident in the pick, that is synonymous to Charles Barkley guaranteeing something. They're synonymous because always the opposite happens. Geoffrey Aji guaranteed that Sam Darnold is going to be the best quarterback in the world. Geoffrey Aji guaranteed that the New York Jets were going to win the AFC East. Geoffrey Aji guaranteed that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were going to be better than the New Orleans Saints last year. You know what happened? Every single thing that he said was wrong. And he's wrong yet again. There's absolutely zero chance the Boston Celtics are going to sweep the Miami Heat. It's not happening.
First of all, I've been wrong a lot of times, but this is different. And my predictions so far for the NBA have been pretty good, except for predictions against Miami Heat. But
Pretty good.
Yes, pretty good because just in terms of who wins the series, not in terms of games.
You're 8-2 in just.
I'm riding the Celtics team.
You're 8-2. Gabe is 8-2. Surge and I are 9-1. It hasn't been that hard. It has not been that hard.
Out of the Eastern Conference Finals, and I'm sticking with my prediction. The Celtics team is going to make it out of the Eastern Conference Finals, and they're beating the Miami Heat.
You know what I hear? I hear a bunch of, as New York City guys like to say, I hear a bunch of cap. You said the Celtics the Heat don't match up well against the Celtics, but they have 3 of the best perimeter defenders in the Eastern Conference, let alone the whole NBA. 3 of the most underrated defenders. Not to mention their rookies and sophomores are shooting lights out. The Celtics might be able to defend that for a few quarters, but when the Heat get streaky, no one in the league is stopping them from that. The only teams that can beat Miami are teams that are way superior and have superstardom. And the Celtics have stardom, but they don't have superstardom just yet. There's no way they sweep. I could see them winning the series because it's a close series, but to say that they're going to sweep it's ridiculous.
Blasphemous.
It's absolute disrespect. Like I wish Johnny Bonez was here because he would be obliterating you right now. But yeah, go ahead, Geoffrey. What other BS?
I disagree with that. I think the Celtics have a superstar, and that's Jason Tatum. He's been extremely good against the Raptors, and then Game 7, he's really stepped up. He's been hitting his threes, and I know that Tyler Herro's been good, but I think the Celtics can really limit him.
You know what the thing about Boston Celtics? They're probably one of the most talented teams in the NBA, and they just barely were able to put away a Toronto Raptors team that not only has a Pascal Siakam who looks like his former self before he emerged last year, but also a Raptors team who is without Kawhi Leonard, who has been an underdog throughout the season. The Celtics clearly were outplaying the Raptors throughout the series. The Celtics are clearly more talented, and yet they still fail to put away games because they are not clutch. They're not clutch. They're not able to ice games when it matters. They can't hit their free throws properly. They have cold streaks in the 3-point shooting. You know what the Miami Heat are going to do? They're going to capitalize on that. They're not the Toronto Raptors. They have the players who can actually make it rain. And once it starts raining, you're going to be caught in a hurricane and you're going to drown.
If I remember correctly, you had the Raptors big out of the Eastern Conference. They've been an extremely underrated team the whole season. And guess what? First of all, the Raptors got completely most of the games. The Celtics beat them by a lot. The first 2 games they completely blew them out. There were a few games.
Yeah. So why did they sweep them?
They would have been 3-0 against the Raptors.
Would have put a shove.
Must beat her. They would have been 3-0.
And they went to a Game 7.
The Raptors team is a great team, right?
Yes.
The Raptors is a great team, and the Boston Celtics team, I believe, was dominant for most of the series. There were a few games where the Celtics choked, but I don't think they're going to do this against the Miami Heat. I think they can beat the Miami Heat without a doubt.
They can beat them, but there's no way they're sweeping them.
They're sweeping them.
Okay, I'm on Team Celtics here, so I am going to have to add in a couple points for the Celtics. First of all, Gordon Hayward could be coming back for the series, which we saw how much Gordon Hayward meant to the Celtics in this series because they didn't have that other dimension on offense to just get like 15 points a game. And Gordon Hayward provides that for him. So if he comes back, Celtics have another addition. And then we never talked really that much about the Celtics defense, but I saw the Celtics play some really good lockdown defense on the Raptors Game 7. I saw Jaylen Brown locking up Pascal Siakam primarily. And even though Kevin says Siakam looked like a former shell of himself, I think part of that was due to Jaylen Brown. So I really like the defense that the Celtics are playing. Marcus Smart is an absolute stud, even though he and Kyle Lowry were kind of trading flops and taking charges there. But I think the Celtics play underrated defense. And we talk about Miami's defense, but Celtics have great defense as well. And that's what I think gives them the edge in this series.
Well, I want to comment on that because I don't think the Celtics defense is underrated. They were fourth in the league in defense, so everyone knows their Celtics defense is good. And also, I think your comment on Gordon Hayward is actually an add and a subtraction. If you put in Gordon Hayward, you know who's going to be put out of the starting lineup?
Marcus Smart.
And you know who provides that defensive tenacity? Marcus Smart. So yes, your offense might get better, but if you take out Marcus Smart from that starting lineup, he's still going to get a lot of minutes, like 28, 30 plus minutes in the rotation. But if you take him out of the starting lineup, you're taking away from that beginning of the game intensity. So I'm going to say Gordon Hayward, yes, you do get better offense. You do get better isolation plays from him, but you take out Marcus Smart. And so I think it's not as much of a plus as Celtics fans may think.
I think it's a plus for this matchup against the Heat because the last time Gordon Hayward played against Miami, the first regular season game, he had almost 28 points. He was
first regular season game. How many months ago was that?
That
was almost a year ago.
I mean, yeah, but it doesn't matter because this is the same team. Nothing has changed. This Boston Celtics team was still extremely good against the Heat, and come on. I think
back-to-back.
I think the Celtics are an obvious pick here. I don't see the Miami Heat winning the series no matter what.
Look, I can concede that the Boston Celtics might win this series. I mean, that's why I have the series going to 7. But in 4, that is just disrespect to Eric Spoelstra, the whole coaching staff, and the entire Miami Heat team who has shown their durability, their tenacity, and their ability to actually put away their doubters like you.
If you saw what happened to the Bucks series, the Miami Heat were just a better matchup for them, right? And then this series is completely different. The Celtics are a much better matchup against the Heat.
How? Tell me how.
First of all, like I said, the 3-point defense, right? The best team in 3-point defense, and I think they can really limit the Heat, and they've shown that they can limit the Heat. And second of all, this defense, not just the 3-point defense. Jaylen Brown has been locking people up. Marcus Smart has been insane and he's going to come back from the bench when Gordon Hayward comes back. And then finally, when Gordon Hayward comes back, this Boston Celtics team is going to be even better.
Hey, I'd like to say one more point here, and I mean this with complete sincerity because I care about you. Please, for the love of God, do not go to Miami anytime soon. Okay? Your safety will be at risk.
Well, I'll gladly hand a contract to Gabriel Pickup to be your replacement analyst once you hand in your resignation letter in a week or so.
All right, that interim. All right.
That's not happening.
Damn, this guy staked his whole career on a pick.
It's not happening. Just watch.
Okay,
Yeah,
we'll see whether Geoffrey A goes back to his primary job as video editor or whether he can stay on as an analyst on M2M based on the Eastern Conference Finals between the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics.